Good evening and welcome to the Poll Managers Training or Briefing for the 2022 June primaries. Okay. And like I said earlier, we have a lot of information to cover and we're going to try and do it within the 2 hour time frame. However, if we have a lot of questions, we may not get it done within that time frame. But with me, it's fine. I just don't want to take up too much of your time because I know you are probably have a schedule that's very busy. So I want to officially welcome you. I always like to say to the finest poll workers in the whole state of South Carolina, because you guys are the best. And I don't want you to ever forget that. We go a lot of places across this country and across this state, and I hear all kinds of horror stories. And I still say that Beaufort County have the best poll worker in the whole state. So congratulations to your success from elections to elections. And thank you all for your patience, for always hanging in there with us. And don't matter what we throw after you, you guys always seem to manage to accomplish those tasks. So again, we thank you, we appreciate you, and the Board of Voter Registration and Elections of Beaufort County wants you to know that. We will put you up against any poll worker in this country because you have proven yourselves time and time again over the years. Your faithfulness will always be appreciated in our county. Okay. All right. Some of you may have gotten some notification from Easy Vote. Back in February, we sent out a letter letting you know that some of your personal information may have been breached. Easy Vote is a third-party software company that we use to manage our poll workers database, and their database was breached. As soon as they learned about the breach, they made sure that all of that data was moved over to a more secure location. And you should have gotten a letter in the last couple of weeks. If you are pretty new, you should have gotten a letter explaining all of this to you. And I just wanted to mention it because, of course, it was an unfortunate situation. It's just unfortunate that people out there in the world spend days after days and hours after hours trying to hack people's private information. So EasyVote is offering a 1-year protection program to cover your credit history, your credit. And please take advantage of that because to this date, we only know of 2 poll workers data that's been put out there, but the investigation is ongoing. And as a precautionary measures, we are, or EasyVote is offering 1-year protection. And so if anything comes up in relation to your credit, as someone trying to buy a house in your name, your credit will be blocked and protected. Okay. If you have any questions about this a little bit later on after the meeting, if you want to give us a call, we will be happy to further discuss this with you. Again, the board apologized for this unfortunate situation, and we hope that you don't have to bear any consequences for it. So let's do what we typically do is get sworn in. You know, this is a requirement for training. We are in, and I ask that you keep your mics muted, and I will do the oath. You just raise your hands. You don't have to say anything to me aloud. You can just read along with me if you like, and then you will be sworn in as an official poll worker for the Beaufort County Board of Voter Registration working in the June primaries, okay? I do solemnly swear or affirm that I am duly qualified according to the Constitution of this state to exercise the duties of the office to which I have been appointed, and that I will, to the best of my ability, discharge the duties thereof, and preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of this state and of the United States. So help me God. Okay, now, what does that mean? That means that you are a very important person. You are serving in a very important role. You are a member of an elite group of folks. And just wanted you to know that the job that you are doing as a poll worker is taken seriously. And this oath that you are swearing to, we hold you to it. And the reason for that is because in order for us to conduct elections, we must have people of high integrity. And so, like I said, I put you guys up against anybody in this country because I believe that our poll workers are the best in the country, not just in the state, but in the country. On election morning, you will also be taking an oath for poll managers. Again, it's a similar oath. It's just worded a little bit differently, but that's also required. It's required by our election laws in our state that you all sign this oath, and that oath will need to be returned to us on election night. You are swearing that as you're serving as a poll manager, a poll worker in Beaufort County, that you will uphold the Constitution and you will abide by the rules, processes, and procedures that are in place to conduct free, fair elections. All right? What's new? Guess what's new? We have a new early voting bill in South Carolina. A lot of the bill, parts of this early voting bill deal with a lot of administrative stuff, but there will be some changes that will affect you all as poll managers, and we will talk about some of those things a little bit later on in the session, okay? What else is new? We have provisional ballots are now able to be recorded on our electronic poll book. We still don't have all the features that we would like to have, but if you worked in the November 2021 election, you may have already experienced using the electronic poll book to record provisional voters. We also have new provisional ballot envelopes, new seal envelopes, and we have a new ballot reconciliation worksheet, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later on, and we're going to go into real serious discussion about that with our clerks when they come in for their hands-on training. And you also have a new poll manager's handbook, okay? And it looks like this, blue. So, and the last thing I'm going to touch on is the increased scrutiny that election is experiencing. And it's not just in Beaufort County, and it's not just in South Carolina, it's all over the country. And that's not such a bad thing, because we set out to accomplish a task, and that is providing a service to the voters wherever we are serving. And our job is to do it to the best of our abilities within the realms of the laws. And like I said, I don't doubt that that's what you're going to do. But in the early voting bill, there are some stiff penalties for those people who violate the process, the rules and procedures, and the expectation of what's expected of you as a poll worker. Okay, so this is what the book looked like. If you are interested in getting a copy of it before Election Day, please go by either one of the offices, Beaufort, Bluffton, or Hilton Head office. There will be copies there. You can pick it up when you go into early vote, or if you are part of the Hilton Head PSD election, they are available now if you're going to go in and vote in person absentee. Okay? All right, being a poll manager, we know that we cannot conduct elections without you. So we depend on you and we trust you. All right? We can't express how, I guess, how important your role is in this most important democratic process. Being a poll manager, a lot of folks don't understand the work, the hours that you put in, the training that you go through. They think it just happens overnight. And you know as well as I do, It doesn't happen overnight. And but what we would like for our poll managers to do is understand why they are doing what they're doing, understand the processes and procedure, and know that when we ask you to do something, it's not just coming from me because I like to make your life miserable. It's something that's coming down from the state office and has already been vetted, and it's there for a reason. And I always tell people, especially folks who are filling out paperwork, is like, if I could help not making you fill out paperwork, I would not let you fill out paperwork. But that's not an option. There are records that needs to be kept. There are things that we have to be accountable for. And the only way we're going to be accountable for some things is if we can prove that what we are doing is a legitimate process and we can verify and justify everything that we do. When you work as a poll manager, you have to put aside all of your political views. And I'm serious about that. Since the 2020 election has come under attack from every angle. All right. And all of a sudden, what we've been doing for years and years and years is being scrutinized. And that's not such a bad thing, like I said earlier. That's good. But what it does tells us though is that whatever we do, we have to understand why we are doing it, so that you will understand that what you are doing is in accordance with the state laws. Okay. So when I say that you must set aside your personal views, that's what you have to do. We don't care what political party you affiliate yourself with. We really don't, because it's not about that. It's about conducting a process, a democratic process, allowing folks who are registered, legally registered to vote in our county, in our state, in our country, an opportunity to select elected leaders, and we do that in a fair way. So I don't care what political party you belong to, as long as when you are doing your duty as a poll manager, that your party that you associate yourself with, their views don't matter, because here you are nonpartisan. It has nothing to do with party. It has nothing to do with anything other than following the correct processes. Poll managers must remember that security and accountability is always forefront. And again, this training that we go through today is going to seem a little bit elementary, but again, what my job and my role is to make sure that you understand what you are doing and why you are doing it. Okay. And everything that we do is in accordance with state law. We don't make these things up to make your life miserable. Okay. Poll managers, again, in order for you to understand the complete process of what you're doing at the precinct, is that you must serve in different roles. And I say must because I know some of you get very comfortable doing one thing all day long. You know, especially after you get, after a couple of hours, you feel confident. I can do this because I've done it several times. But in order for you to understand the different aspect of being a poll manager, you need to rotate the roles of the poll manager during the day. And the lead clerk or the head clerk will be the one to make the various assignments. Okay. So don't get so comfortable just operating the EPB, the e-poll book. Okay. Don't get so comfortable handing out I voted sticker. Put yourself in different roles so that you will know what it takes to do it. Because one, you can be, and you are, poll managers in training to be clerks. And the clerks, are the supervisors of the precinct. So don't just settle for one thing. And if nobody assign you, volunteer for it. Say, I want to do the resolution table, or I want to be the ballot marking device manager. I want to be I want to go and do a curbside vote. That's an experience, doing the curbside voting. So try to do a little bit of everything during the day. Now, I understand that some of us do have limitations, And if that's the case, the lead clerk will make sure that you are placed in a position that you can handle without any issues. Okay. And everybody else will work around you. But know that whatever you do, you're working as a team. No one person should be responsible for everything. All right. Now, we mentioned serving in different roles, the scanner monitor and the exit monitor. The reason why we are, I guess, bringing attention to these roles is because we cannot allow a voter to walk out of that precinct with a ballot in their hand or in their pocket. All right. So the scanner monitor is the person who will make sure that when that voter comes to that scanner, that when they need to go ahead and scan that ballot, because some people still don't understand that the ballot marking device is not recording your ballot. All they're doing is allowing you an opportunity to make your selection. Then your ballot is printed and scanned. That's when it actually counts. So if you let them walk out of that precinct with that ballot in their hand, then you will know that your count at the end of the evening will not be correct. And we want to make sure everything is reconciled and you can account for every ballot that was issued to you and every ballot that was cast and every ballot that's coming back to the office. Okay. So make sure head clerk, lead clerk, whatever role you're playing, and everybody in the precinct, you make sure voters do not take those ballots out of the precinct. Now, for clerks who are serving in a multiple location, you will still be a clerk, but someone will be appointed as the lead clerk. So in other words, that person will have ultimate responsibility over all the other precincts. Now, you will still be there as a clerk because you have a role to play as well. But we're going to hold one person accountable for making sure that all the documentations that we need from that precinct is returned and completed. Because in the future, we can't just say, it'll be okay, I'll get it the next time. We want you to know that because we are under a lot of scrutiny, we have to do it right. And we have to take the time to do it right. But the lead clerk is just the person who will be responsible. But as a team, you all have to work together to accomplish that. So I'm encouraging you to work together to make sure that your reconciliation worksheet, all the data that we need for the provisional ballots, all of that information is returned to the office without any issues. Okay. All right. Poll managers, unfortunately, your pay has not changed yet. We're still hoping that there may be some increase for poll managers. Poll managers work harder now than they ever done in the past. And this job has brought on more responsibility than it's ever been ever seen in the past. So really, I think y'all deserve a raise. And what I did in the Beaufort County budget, and I'm not sure if it's going to pass, but I asked for a supplemental pay, not from the state office for elections, but from the county, because you do live in our county. And I think, again, a lot of folks very seldom understand the importance of your role. I do. So I have requested a supplemental, not a whole lot of money, but it's just something that will supplement what comes from the state. Okay. Clerks, if you attend one of the hands-on training, you will receive an additional $100 in addition to the $60 for being a clerk. Only clerks, not managers. I'm sorry, we couldn't do it all because, like I said, the clerk and the lead clerks, they will be the ones responsible for bringing all the paperwork back and making sure that everything is done in accordance with the instructions. Okay. If you are a first-time poll worker and you have not completed payroll paperwork, please do so immediately and get that to Mr. Robeson. All right. We want to pay you for what you do. Well, we want to give you a supplement for what you do because we really can't pay you for what you do. And we understand that, and I think you do too, because if you didn't, you wouldn't be here for the amount of money that we pay you to do this. So I call it a supplement, and but I think that you deserve it. You can buy a steak dinner or something with it. I don't know, but know that if you have not done paperwork, you need to get it to Mr. Robeson, and you need to do it as soon as possible. All right. All right. Preparing for election day. Review your poll manager's handbook. Again, you can pick that up from one of the offices. Online training is still available. If you want to go back and refresh yourself, let us know. We'll set you up for the online poll managers training. They have a new training out there that just went into effect the first part of this month. I think it was May 1st. And there are also some poll managers videos on the scvotes.gov website, okay? And if you get some time, go back and review some of those things. It will help refresh you on some of the processes and procedure, all right? For the June primaries, we had several changes to polling locations. Know where your polling place is, okay? Which means you need to do that in advance. You need to know where you're going. Those of you who are usually assigned to schools, you need to check that because we had several changes to the schools location because of constructions going on at some of the schools that we typically use. So we've been rerouted to alternative schools and other places. So please know where your polling location is. Lead clerk, I would advise you to go to that place, especially if this is your first time working there, to see what it looks like, get a feel of the layout so that you will understand how to set up when you go in the day before or whenever you set up for your election. Typically, hopefully, the day before as much as you can. Don't forget to get sleep and your lunch, your snacks, your drinks, your medication, your telephone, your cell phone, and your cell phone chargers. Okay, and because if we cannot get a hold of the clerk, we will try calling some of the poll managers if we need to get information to you. Do not bring children to the polls. I know some of them will be out of school when we do this election. Leave the grandbabies at home, leave your pets at home, and leave all political material at home. Okay? You don't have to worry about the heavy duty equipment for the election staff and or poll managers that we hire will be doing those. Lead clerks, please remember to pick up your information at the appointed place and time. I'll show you where that will be, same as always, pretty much. And on election day, please review all of your supplies to make sure you have what you need for election day. And so when you pick up your supplies, go through them, make sure you have what you need. And I would advise you to take a look at your polling location to make sure that you have enough extension cords, enough tables, whatever else you might need to run your location or your precinct successfully. All right. This is, yes?
This is Doris. One of the things I would add to that list is duct tape or something to tuck tape down the extension cords so people are not tripping over them.
Yeah, okay. I thought we put them in the box, but if we didn't, I'll have them to check. I will make a note of that because we try to put the duct tapes in the supply box, in the red supply box. So check with the clerks on that. But we could forget some, we have to replenish after every election. Sometimes they take leg and walk from one election to the other, but we'll replenish them if we need to. So Beaufort and Chichester, you will pick up your supplies between 11 and 4 at the voter registration office here in Beaufort. Bluffton, from 11 to 12, that's all Bluffton precinct except the Sun City precincts, okay? You will go from 12 to 1, Sun City, the Bluffton Library. Hilton Head will go to the Hilton Head Library from 11 to 12. Drop off for Bluff, Beaufort, and Chichester, unless you tell us otherwise, will be here at the main office on John Galt Road. Bluffton and Sun City is to return their supplies not at the Bluffton Library, but the Bluffton Satellite Office on Alma Road. On election night, you go around to the back, and someone will be back there to receive your supplies. And the Hilton Head Library will be also the drop off for supplies. Please arrive to your polling location no later than 6 o'clock. Depending on where you are, you may have to come at 5:30 or 6 or 5:45. You know that better than I do. You need to make sure you contact your team members and know what time you all will be arriving at the precinct. You cannot set your precinct up if you get there at 6:45 and be ready to receive voters at 7. So please govern yourselves accordingly and make sure that you have ample time to get all of your signs posted, your equipment set up, and your tables set up. Open up all your ballot marking devices, your scanner, whatever you have to start receiving voters. You need to make sure you have enough time to do that. And once you get through setting up all of the other equipment, and this is a diagram of your polling place setup, and by no means is this the way you have to set it up. This is just a recommendation on how to set up, but the concept is making sure that your voters have a clear entryway to get into the precinct. Okay? And the certification table should be the first thing that they encounter because they need to be certified. Your voting machine should be away from the certification table, but still in a position that you can observe or you can or someone will be observing. But they should not be the first thing set up when you come in the door. They should be away from the certification table. When the voter leaves the ballot marking devices, they should be able to come around to the scanner and then out. If you have to an entrance and an exit. Some people will only have an entrance, so you will have to come in and go out through the same door. And the exit monitor will escort you through the door or where you need to go. Okay? You need to ensure that people who have special needs to access the facility don't have any obstacles in their way. The uh, entrance, the front door entrance, may not be the most accessible entrance. If it's not, you need to put out signs directing voters to the accessible entrance. It could be on the side of the building, it could be in the back of the building, it could be anywhere other than the front entrance. Wherever it is, when you go to make an assessment of your polling place, check that out. Make sure you know where that is. And even after you find out where that is, don't put any obstacles in the way, like setting up a flower pot or something at the door to hold the door open. That could serve as an obstruction to a voter in a wheelchair, or someone could trip over it. So please make sure that your polling place is accessible and know that your ballot marking devices for those people who may be um, sight impaired, that there is audio available on your ballot marking devices. Post your signs inside and outside wherever they need to go so people will understand what to do. Remember, you will set this polling place up. If you were a voter coming into your place for the first time, they will need to be able to find you without asking a whole lot of questions because you have signs posted. If you need additional signs directing people to where they need to go, if you need signs to put on the highway, let us know. We have signs available. We will give you, I think, like 5, but if you need 10, we'll give you 10. We just want to make sure that voters have as much information on the signage that you post so that they can find their way as easy as possible, especially in these new locations. Because for this, it's not just going to be the first time for you, it's going to also be the first time for these voters. So they need to have ample sign directing them to the entrance of the polling place. Okay. Any questions so far?
Yes, Marie.
Yes.
The last time we voted, well, from the general election, we were at the high school in Bluffton, and then it got shifted to the grade school, and there was across the road was the rec center, and there was a general amount of confusion about people being able to figure out which polling place they belonged to. So I don't know if that was ever addressed or if that's
Well,
been rectified in any way or.
yeah, what we've been telling people, and you probably hear it on the news. We try to give this information to all the radio and TV stations in the area so that they can announce this kind of stuff. And what we recommend all voters to do, and this is the announcement that they should be making on the TV stations, is check your polling place before you go to the polls so that you will know exactly where you are supposed to go. Everybody that lives in the Bluffton area don't get to vote the same place. So because we have to make these changes sometimes, and we publicize it as well in the newspaper, but I understand that everybody don't read the Beaufort Gazette or the Island Packet. And so that's why we try to do things online on our website. It's on the state website. So if you go to the scvotes.gov website, you will be able to pull up a sample ballot that will tell you who's on your ballot. It'll also tell you your polling locations. So anybody that you run into between now and the time they get ready to go to the polls on the 14th, suggest that they do that to check where their polling location is. We will be publicizing it again. And again, we're going to encourage all of the news medias to announce it that that's what you need to do. You need to check where your polling place is. And I know that that's confusing to voters on election day. Again, sometimes right now we have made several changes and we publicize those, but we can get a change any day. And that happens to us more often than we like, where we get a call from the facility to say, unfortunately, due to whatever their reasoning are, you cannot use our facility. And that's not good, but it happens more so often than we would like for it to happen. So the best thing to do is the night before the election or even election morning, and when you get ready to go to the precinct, is check the scvotes.gov website, and all that information will be there where you need to go, and even pull up a sample ballot to tell you who's going to be on your ballot. Okay? Because there are going to be people going to question you guys about who they're voting for. You will have sample ballots to place in your location, but people are going to even question that. Due to the redistricting after the 2020 census, there were a lot of district changes. And some people are thinking they're in 6, and when they in County Council District 6 or County Council District 9, and a lot of those districts were, the lines on those districts were changed. So the person that represented you a couple of years ago may no longer be representing you. So the best thing to do is to check the website to see who's going to be on your ballot. And what we will be giving you is what we call a street listing. And that street listing will have all the district information for every address in your precinct. And you will be able to tell that voter when they question you that that's their new district. And unfortunately, some of them are going to believe you and some of them are not. But when that happens again, you can always refer them to us. But I can tell you, there are going to be a lot of people looking for folks on their ballots that's not going to be there. Okay? All right.
Marie,
Marie,
sorry.
this is
I have one
Cherie
question.
Cahoon.
Okay.
Go ahead, Sheree.
I just wanted to know if all these things that are coming up on the screen that we're talking about will be in the handbook, the new handbook.
Most of it, yes, ma'am. Now
Okay.
the actual
All right, so that I can go ahead.
I was saying some of the actual processes will procedures will probably not be in there, but a lot of them are.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Marie, this is Matt Sweeney. I have a question about redistricting. So we've got Bluffton, 2C, and New River in Beaufort County that are well over 3,000 people. And I know you're working on redistricting the precincts. Am I correct that there will be no changes before the primary, but you expect to make the changes before the general election?
Okay, this is the deal. All precinct line changes has to go through the legislature. And because they are already out of session, the earliest we could probably make any precinct changes would probably be in 2023. And the reason why I'm saying that, because I can say, I can't officially draw a new precinct line without having the legislators approve it. So it's not just me saying, let's cut this precinct in half. I can't do that. It has to be done. Amber is on the line, and Amber had her first class in the redistricting process where the 2020 census is set up into what they call voting blocks. And when it sounds easy that we can split a precinct, we can't just split a precinct because all our voters are identified by voting blocks. And so some voting blocks are much bigger than other voting blocks, but we can manipulate the voting blocks where we can make them smaller, make the precinct smaller. But when we do that, it has to be approved by the state fiscal affairs office, and then it has to go through the legislators. So typically what we will do in 2022 between now and January of next year is file what we call pre-file the bill to change some of the precincts lines, and then it has to be approved by the legislators in 2023. So it's not as easy as it sounds, but because we could not do it right away and get it to the legislators by the time the session ended last Thursday, we know that it was not going to get done for 2022.
Okay, so the precincts will be unchanged the entire year for this year.
The precinct size will be unchanged for this year. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? That was a good one. So now y'all are smart and know a little bit more about that whole process. See, voter registration and election is not just having an election. There's a lot that goes into it behind the scene that most people don't even know about. And but that question that he just asked, we were highly involved in that process at the end, because we don't have the authority or the ability to make these changes. All we do is implement it. And so the role that we played, I say we, this office played in the whole process, is making sure every voter's record was updated with the new district information. So is it all going to be absolutely 100% done correctly? We hope so, but we don't think that. We're not going to be so naive to believe that we are perfect. So we could make mistakes. And when that happens, we will try to correct it. And that's why we are encouraging you to allow the poll workers to question whether or not they are in the correct district. Because we could have made a mistake. We hope we didn't, but we could have. And that will give us an opportunity to investigate a little bit further. So encourage them to question you and let us know so that we can do the research on it, okay? All right. I'm not reading the chats, so you can ask your question verbally. If anybody have any more questions before we move on. Okay. The electronic poll book, I think you guys have been exposed a couple of times now, and it does work real well. Just make sure that when you get to the precinct, that you turn your Wi-Fi on. Your Wi-Fi is the device that you're using will only talk to from one poll book to the other. It's not connected to the internet, and the poll book is not connected to any of the voting equipment. Okay, so understand that when you hear a lot of talk about the voting machines connected to the internet, that is not true. All right, the e-poll book is not connected to the internet. It's only an in-house way for one of those EPB to update the other EPB. So understand that if you do not connect it and you're using two EPBs, and we're going to have at least two in every precinct, when one person update their EPB with a voter, it would automatically update the other EPB as well, and vice versa. So it's important that you turn that Wi-Fi on. In the evening, when you are through processing your voters, you need to turn it off. Please remember to do that. And your team, I'm assuming that your team will work together to get your precinct set up in the morning time and make sure all of your equipment is up and running. That's a team, not just the head clerks or not just the clerks. The whole team work together. Make sure that no one is or have access to the EPBs, any of the ballot marking devices, or even the scanner. The only time they should be touching this piece of equipment is if they are at the ballot marking devices, marking their ballot, or if they're at the scanner, scanning their ballot. They should have no reason to touch the EPB, which is the electronic poll book. And all that does is manage the voters coming in. It has no connection to the actual election itself. It does not interfere with the ballot marking devices, does not interfere with the scanner. It's kind of like an internal management system that's used to manage the poll workers. I'm sorry, the voters, okay? And just like that paper voter registration list that you have seen in the past that we send to you as a backup, it's the same information. It's just on a piece of electronic device, right? This part of in the last couple of elections, you probably remember that you were asked to update the paper voter registration list with your absentee voters. With absentee, we no longer have in-person absentee voting. If you can remember, in-person absentee voting used to end on Mondays, the day before the election. And by that time, we would have already distributed our equipment and our supplies. So we were asking you to come back on Tuesday morning and go to the paper voter registration list and update those people who may have voted on Monday. Well, I'm thinking now that the absentee precinct, since it no longer exists, early voting is in progress for the June 14th primary. That will end on Friday at 5 o'clock. And staff should have enough time to update whatever needs to be updated in those books, which will take one of the burdens off of you on election morning. I'm just putting it on the staff. They don't know that yet either, but I will tell them. Okay. So, and again, that Friday evening after 5, we're going to have 3 locations right now open. And so we have to wait on staff to go from those locations back to the main office, and that's where the list will be. All right. So that'll be one less thing you have to worry about on election day. The electronic poll book should be used to check in all of your voters, except your curbside voters. Well, actually, they are used to check in curbside voting too. All right. But they will not be able to sign anything with the electronic poll book. You will sign for the curbside voters, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. You will still get your paper voter registration list, and that will serve as your backup list just in case the electricity goes out and you don't have access to your EPB. Lord forbid, because that would be a disaster. But again, you will revert to manual processing of voters, and we have done it in the past, so we can do it again. We will not talk about that in too much detail. That will be discussed during the in-person hands-on training. Please use your open and close checklist to open and close your ballot marking device and the scanner, okay? When you get your equipment set up, and make sure that your BMDs are connected to the power source. Sometimes we plug it in, but we don't plug it in all the way. And so you will find that your BMD start getting a little sluggish during the day. What you need to do is to check to make sure that everything is plugged in completely, because that will drain the battery. Your zero tapes need to be signed, at least 3 managers. And we are also recommending that you use the first voter if you have a willing first voter who wants to sign the zero tape. And again, because we are under so much scrutiny, we want the outsiders, the voters, to know we have nothing to hide. We want to make this process as transparent as possible. So allow them an opportunity to look at the 0 on the scanner to see that there's no votes that has gone through that scanner that morning. Your public count should be 0. And the big blue ballot box that we put under the scanner to catch the ballots, let them see that it's empty. So don't seal that up before you open up your precinct, so that your first or second voter, whoever wants to sign it, can see that that box is empty before you put it in that scanner and seal it. Okay. Again, the scrutiny that we are under, we want to make sure that all grounds are covered. All right. They may not want to sign it. That's fine. You need to sign it, and you need to show it to them at least. All right. When you are managing your ballot cards, each precinct will be issued a certain amount of ballot cards, and you have to be accountable for those ballot cards. If you were issued 750 and you only used 50, then we should be getting 700 returned. All right. And the person who's serving as the lead clerk, if you have multiple locations, you're going to need to add all of that together to reconcile, because you're going to be reconciling with what's on your EPB, and your EPB will be recording every voter. Okay, so it's not going to just record 1 precinct, 2 precinct, 3 precinct. It's going to all be in one. And in order for you to reconcile, you're going to need to add all that was issued to each precinct to your final reconciliation form. And we will talk about that in more details at the hands-on training. But know that, again, you got to work as a team in order to accomplish this. Okay, so when you get through setting up all of your equipment, putting out all your signs, and making sure that your extension cords are taped down and not a trip hazard, when you get through doing all of that, do this little checklist that's going to be in the oath and form booklet. The checklist is to make sure that you have done all the things that you needed to do before you call in to let us know that you're open. Please do not forget to call in. That's very important. We have to be accountable. This is not a local election. This is a statewide primary. Every county has to be accountable to the state office. So we have to make sure that everybody is open on time, and by 7 o'clock, I have to report to the state office that Beaufort County precincts are open and ready to receive voters at 7 o'clock. There are 64 locations, I believe, or something to that effect. I should get 64 calls from somebody at your location telling me that you are open and ready to receive your first voter. And that needs to be done way before 7 o'clock. That's why it's important that you be there no later than 6 o'clock. If you're in a location that have 12 machines, you know it's going to take you longer to open up 12 machines. So you may want to try coming at 5:30. I'm not sure if we have a location like that, but the lead clerk will know and the board members will know. All right. So when you call in, when you're done with this, then you will be calling in. All right. This little video right here is on the state websites, and we're not going to look at it right now because it's just telling you how to open and close your ballot marking devices. But you will have handwritten information, step-by-step procedures on how to do that. And when you get through doing your checklist, then you will call Election Central. Please know that instead of calling the 6906 number like you used to call, you will be calling the 522-6900 number. As soon as you get your precincts open or your polling place open, call the 6900 number. This is a change from what we've done in the past. And the reason why we are doing that is so that the people over at the 6900, which is Election Central technical support folks, only need to be called if you're having an issue with one of your voting equipment or piece of election equipment. To call to report in, call the 6900. They will ask you a series of questions to make sure that you have done all the things that you need to do. Okay? Now, I know I just got through telling you that you need to do the checklist, but we have to verify that you have done everything that you need to do. Again, we have to be accountable. So help us be accountable by being obedient and calling this number as soon as you get your precincts open up. We will be here at 6 o'clock because there are people sometimes who will be experiencing difficulties right at the beginning of the process. So we will be here. Staff will be here. Some of us will be here before 6 o'clock. So we will take your phone calls and do what we can to get you help if you need help. Again, if you are having technical issues, you have two numbers that you can call. You would first call the 6906 number, and that will be Vernon and his staff. And then you will have a list in your supply box of your polling location technician. All right. We will be the first call, and then you call in also to your technician. And the reason why you're doing that, the polling location technician is the boot on the ground. All right. We may be able to assist you on the telephone, but if you need somebody to come to you directly, that's what your polling technician will do. and they will be coming around periodically all day long to make sure you don't have any technical issues. Okay? So know that there are two technical numbers that you can call, ours at the 6906 and the one that's going to be listed on your polling technician list. Okay?
Marie,
Yes?
is the on the boots to ground technician assigned one for each polling location, or do they cover multiple locations?
That's a good question. They cover multiple locations.
Okay.
And some may have up to 7 locations or more, depending on the area that it's in. All right. So, and that's why it's important that you call the 6906 number so we can gauge that technician as well as you. And if we can determine if you have a real serious issue where they would need to drop what they're doing at that point and get to you as soon as possible. So yes, they do cover several locations and they will visit you first thing in the morning. But because they are going to multiple locations, they may not get to you before 8 o'clock. And if there's something that we can walk you through, we will do that on the telephone. So that's a good question. Okay, once you get everything done and you've contacted and called us, and make sure that you have all your equipment ready for the first voter, you at 7 o'clock a.m., use your cell phone as the timepiece, go to the door and declare the poll is open. All right? Please do not feel sorry for anybody that's hanging outside the door because it's so hot and all of that. Now, if you let them in, fine, but they cannot start voting until 7 o'clock if you have room. All right. So please know, no voting. And let me just say this as well. Every time you do something on one of those pieces of equipment, when you insert a ballot card, when you turn the machine on, there's a recording of everything that takes place on that voting equipment. We know every time a voter put a ballot through. We know every time the machine is turned on or off or anything that is done to that voting machine. So there's a log that's being kept of what's happening on that voting system. So again, when I say we keep a log, I know some people sometimes thinks that they can shut down that voting machine early and get away with it because they don't have voters. Don't you know that we know if you shut down the polling machine down early? Because there's a log recording when the machine is closed, when it's open, when it's closed. So if you open at 6:30, it's going to show that this machine was open at 6:30. When you close at 6:30, it's going to show that you close at 6:30. So please remember, you took the oath. You need to follow the rules. You cannot close the machine before 7 p.m. All right. And if you have voters in line at 7 p.m., there's a procedure to override 7 o'clock to move beyond 7 o'clock for processing voters. All right. Any questions? Okay, let's start with emergency provisional ballot. We really hope that you do not have to use the emergency provisional ballot option. That's for when, for some reason, you get locked out of your facility, and that can happen, and it has happened, that the janitorial staff overslept and forgot that he needed to get the school open by 6 o'clock. You will have in your in your clerk's supplies a copy of what we call our facility list. It will have every facility on it and all of the contact people, name and cell phone numbers or contact numbers. All right. Sometimes it's the principal of the school, sometimes it's a janitor, but whoever it may be, that's why it's so important that you get there early so that you can ensure that you can get into your facility. And I would advise you, for those of you who are working with any of these facility folks, contact them, build some kind of relationship so that they will know who you are and they will be able to should be able to accommodate you, either get you into the precincts early, unlock the door for you, whatever it takes. But we need to be there. Touch bases with these people ahead of time. Know that school is going to close a little bit earlier this year than normal. So you need to know where you're going, who your principal is, and who you need to talk to, right? If you are forced to use emergency ballots, please notify us immediately. Notify us immediately because you will get a limited amount of emergency/provisional ballots. If you're using those ballots to process voters, you're going to run out pretty soon. And if you run out, you're going to have to write down these candidates and the office that they are running for. You will have to create your own ballot. So as soon as you know you are in an emergency ballot situation, we need to know that. And that's, I can't stress that enough. The other thing that we need to advise you of, all emergency ballots need to be counted on election night. So don't come shimmying in our office at 10 o'clock after you have shut down your precinct with emergency ballots. Those emergency ballots should be scanned on election night at your location if possible. If possible, and most of the time it's possible. Because if you're having an issue with your scanner, we need to know that before you shut down. All right? It's, again, these things are important. And if one person don't remember, somebody else in your location should remember. All right? And we will ask. That's why we need to know if you're in an emergency situation. So when you call us on after 7 o'clock to report that you are finished processing all your voters, we're going to remind you about those emergency ballot and what you need to do with them. Okay? So that's about that for emergency ballot. Any questions on emergency ballots? So processing the voters, please know that all of our IDs that's used for processing voters are not scannable. Right now, we only have the South Carolina driver's license and the South Carolina DMV card, and that includes the concealed weapons permit. All right. Even our voter registration card in our new e-poll books are not scannable at this particular time. They are working on fixing that. No, correcting that. They don't fix it, they correct it. Okay. And US passports, sometimes I don't even think they have a barcode. And the military IDs right now are not scannable as well. Okay. Okay. Photo IDs are required. All right. I don't want anybody to be confused about the fact that photo IDs are not required. They're still required. The laws did not change that. All right. Some voters coming in will have on masks, some will not. Know that we cannot mandate what the voters are doing, all right? But if they do decide to wear a mask, in order for you to verify who they are, they're going to have to remove the mask so that you can see their face, okay? And we will continue to give you the shields that you can use. Again, we are not mandating masks we never could mandate masks for the voters, and we are not mandating masks for the workers as well. If you wish to wear a mask, you may. It's your option. It's not mandated. It's not required in state statutes and the state office, and we are not in a state of emergency right now. No telling what's going to happen by November, but for June, as of today, we are not in any state of emergency so far as a pandemic or anything is concerned. So we will proceed as normal. So make sure that you verify the voter IDs. And not just verify that the person standing in front of you is the person that's on that ID, but you need to check the ID to make sure that it's not expired. So you need to locate, once you turn your equipment on, you use the scanner to locate the voter. Okay, so you have the voter to scan it. And now let me just say this. When we were going through the pandemic, we asked the voter to hold up their IDs. Um, if you're going to wear gloves or you want to wash your hands or clean your hands periodically, it's okay for you to take a hold of that voter's registration, that voter ID, if you need to see it closer. All right. So don't try to strain your eyes looking through the shield. And if you need to hold on to the voter's ID, you can do that. It's up to you. All right. But the whole idea is to make sure that you can see the voter and see the expiration date, if there is one, on the ID. All right. So when you scan the voter, you're going to get sometimes a list of voters. Okay. All right. And that list may be several names on the list. All right. But you are looking for James, and I don't know which James you're looking for. It could be James Curtis, James Henry, or Isaiah Ishua. People spell my husband's name like that, but his name is Isaiah. But anyway, you will get options. It's very, very important that you select the correct voter from that list that may show up. All right. Make sure we still have some issues verifying or selecting the father from the son, and we don't do that very well. We almost every election we have someone voting, the father voting for the son or the son voting on the father's name. If you need to verify that voter's date of birth, verify the date of birth. It's right there on the screen to make sure that you have the correct voter. As you don't want any confrontation or accusing anybody that they have already voted when they didn't even show up. And what we often find out with further discussion and a little bit of investigation, they have selected the incorrect person. All right. So to make sure that you select the correct person, use as much of the information available to you to do that. And once you designate who you think is the correct person, re-verify it. Once you make this selection, re-verify that you selected the right person. All right. Last election, we had husband getting confused with the wife. And they were two different people. They didn't even look alike. But because we didn't re-verify once we made that selection, we went on and processed the voter, and it was the incorrect voter. So again, because we are under a lot of scrutiny, we have to pay attention. You don't have to rush. If you have 100 people in line, the voter that's in front of you is the voter that you need to work with, and make sure you work with that voter until you get it right. Don't worry about the 99 behind him. The one in front of you is very important, and we want to make sure they are given credit for voting, and that you selected the correct person. Okay? All right. So let's go on through the process. Verify the voter's address. All right? The address, again, is a part of the verification process. It's not just the voter's name, it's also where they live. Because remember, a voter should not be allowed to vote in a precinct where they don't live. So verify not just the name and the address. And how are you going to verify the address? By asking the voter their address. It's not necessarily the one that's on their IDs. It's the one that they say out of their mouth. So, what is your current address? Are you at such and such an address? Whatever it takes for you to verify that voter information, but listen to what that voter is saying. If they say, yes, that is my address, then great, that's the ideal thing. So they have passed that part of the test. The other part of the test is making sure that they are an active eligible voter. There are so many different classifications to a voter. other than active eligible. For example, one could have issued absentee ballot, which means there's something else that you need to do. But if they say that it's an active eligible voter, then all you need to do is issue standard ballot. And that would be processing this voter. Okay? Then you would rotate the screen back towards the voter and get the voter to sign. All right? Once that voter has signed his or her name, they need to hit done signing. Then you rotate the screen back to you and you will hit accept. Okay? Then, because this is a party's primary, guess what? You are going to have to ask the voter, in which party's primary do you wish to vote today? Please, how you say this could make or break you during the day. All right? You don't ask somebody if they are a Democrat or if they are a Republican. We don't care what their party affiliation is. All you as a poll manager is concerned on that day in which party's primary they want to vote. Okay? Now, let me throw a little monkey wrench in this thing. The big question is, can I vote for a candidate on the Democratic ticket and can I vote for a candidate on the Republican ticket? The answer is no, not during the primary. This is a Democratic and a Republican primary. You are only entitled to one ballot, one or the other. So let me tell you what the big concern is so that you will be aware of it. Some folks wanting to vote on the Democratic ticket, but also want to vote for the sheriff, which is on the Republican ticket. That's not going to happen. You have to choose one or the other. And that's all you are concerned about. Your explanation to them, there are no demo, and you'll have sample ballots there for the Republican candidates and for the Democratic candidates. Those candidates that are appearing on the sample ballots are the candidates that will appear on their ballots. All right. So there's no way that you can mix the two. There's no crossover voting. The state of South Carolina is what we call an open primary state. So you can choose either party's primary to vote in. It don't matter what your so-called party affiliation is, because in South Carolina, we don't register by party. All right. So know that this is going to be a challenge for you. So, but after you've done a couple of them, you will feel confidence in knowing how to explain this to the voter. Remember, you do not put a title, a party title on any voter. Your job is to give them whatever ballot they want, either the one in the Republican primary or the Democratic primary. That's your job. All right. So now on the machine, this is what it's going to look like. Select a voter's party. Well, that's not done all that great. But when you hit the drop-down menu, you're going to have two options. All right. You need to select the option that they choose. If they choose a Republican, just select the Republican option and then go to next. Then you will take your ballot card and put it in the printer. That ballot card will print the correct ballot for that voter. Based on that voter's information, their ballot style will automatically print on the ballot. You don't have to guess what ballot style they should get. If they choose the Republican Party, their ballot style is going to automatically be correct. This has been tested. It's automatically going to be correct depending on what their address is. All right. And once you've done that, all you need to do is say complete check-in. That card will print. The voter, you will give the voter that card. The voter will take that card over to the ballot marking device, and you will explain to the voter, whoever is the ballot access person will be explaining to the voter what they need to do, how they need to insert the card into the machine. And once you have done that, walk away and let the voter know if assistance is needed. They no assistance is available if they need it. You cannot force yourself on a voter. You cannot even offer them assistance. All you can let them know is that assistance is available if they need it. Then you will step away to allow the voter some privacy. All right. Poll managers, it's not your job to hover over any voter to show them how to do anything. You will explain the process to them and then you will walk away. Give them privacy. Everybody should have privacy when voting. If that voter does ask for assistance, it will take two people to do the assisting. And all that, one person will do the assisting, the other person will observe. And that is to make sure that no one is trying to coerce the voter in any one direction or another. All right. All right. The voter will print their ballot card, and voter, remember, we got to monitor those voters because we want to make sure that that voter is not walking out of that precinct thinking that they have already voted with that receipt. That's what they call the ballot. That's not a receipt. That's the actual ballot. That ballot needs to be scanned in that scanner. So you're going to be escorting them over to where the ballot, the scanner monitor is. The scanner monitor will talk to the voter, let them know that they need to insert their ballot card face down, face up, it doesn't matter. We always told them to place it face down so that we won't see how they're voting. But you need to stand a distance from them. You're not going to be able to see what's on that ballot. It's not that big of a print. However way the voter want to put their ballot in the ballot marking, in the scanner, is fine. As long as they are comfortable with doing it, because we are under a lot of scrutiny. Our voting machine, our voting scanner is telling them to put the ballot in face up. You are telling them to put the ballot in face down. They're not going to trust you. They're going to think that you are telling them to put it face down so that it will not count. Trust me, we had a lot of these concerns during the 2020 election. All right. So my thing is, it doesn't matter how they put it in there. As long as they put it in there, it's going to read it anyway. If they put it in upside down, if they put it in face up or face down, the ballot will be read. It will be counted. Encourage the voter to stay and watch the ballot get counted. Okay. Until that screen's for voting,
Murray,
you should not, the voter should not walk away. Yes?
Murray, I'm sorry to interrupt. Is it possible for Vernon to change that welcome screen on the DS200 so it doesn't say face up?
No, that's a company thing. That's a company thing. We've already addressed that, and I wish they would have changed it. And maybe they'd be working on it. I don't know, but I know for the June primaries, it's going to say that. And so what I in a lot of those scanners, I pull that sign that we had that say face down. Again, the only reason we are asking them to put it face down so that they would feel confident that we can't see how they voted. But I know, and you know, that we stand far enough from them that we're not going to be able to see what how they voted. And as if you like me, you really don't care. You know, as long as they're voting, as long as they're casting a ballot, that's the goal. That's their right. All right. So this is in here because this is what the state want us to say. I know from the way we've been working with these voters for months, for years now, that there are some suspicious minds out there, that there are people who wanting to sabotage their votes. They can insert that ballot face up. Don't make no never mind, because you're not going to be able to see it anyway. Remember, we're going to give them their privacy. All I'm asking is that you ask them to watch the process until that screen said, thank you for voting, before they walk out. Because they will put it in and just walk on out. And maybe they will question whether or not it actually got counted. But they can see the timer or the counter will go from whatever number is on +1 when their ballot is cast. Okay? And then give them the I voted sticker and a gigantic smile and wish them well for the rest of the day. All right? We have to maintain security at the polls at all times. We mentioned this earlier in the session. Our ballot marking devices, our scanners, ballot cards, all of our voting equipment and supplies should not be left unattended. You, poll managers, are the keeper of all of our election equipment and our election supplies. Again, no one should be handling, if you're not a sworn poll manager working with integrity, no one else should be handling our equipment, our supplies, those ballot cards. You need to keep those things in the front of you at all times and accountable for them at all times, okay? And that goes for everybody. Everybody. Nobody should be examining, trying to get serial numbers or trying to see if there's some internet connection. Nobody should be touching our equipment except you as a poll manager, right? And if you have to leave or if you don't feel like sitting the ballot cards right next to you is a safe place, figure out in that location if there's some place that you can secure those ballot cards, but never leave them unattended. Never. And that's why it's important that when you come to the precinct, you come to stay all day. Don't, if you can help it, try not to leave. You need to be there all day because everybody have to have enough coverage at those locations to maintain the security.
Marie,
Yes?
could I have one question? In the primaries, do we have poll watchers as well?
Yes. Yes. There's a very, very, very good possibility of that. And let me tell you why. Because it's parties primaries. So you can have watchers from the parties and or you can have watchers from the candidates. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, I think. Okay?
Okay, right, thanks.
Phones are still outlawed. You cannot take pictures of your ballots. And again, monitor your voters when you take them to those ballot marking devices. Make sure that you are looking at them, not hovering over them, but you position yourself in the precinct that you can see what's going on. And if you see anyone pulling out a cell phone trying to take a picture of their ballot or a picture of them and their voting and their selection, make sure that you call it to their attention that that's not legal in our state. Conflicts resolution. Some of us are much better at resolving conflicts than others. Again, we want you to not having to deal with people that comes in there with attitudes. Unfortunately, there will be folks coming in there looking to question what you're doing. Never lose your cool. Always keep your cool. Know what you're talking about. If someone accuses you of something, you know, they beg their pardon, but you don't get into a shouting match or some kind of debate about one thing or the other. If anyone comes into your precinct causing a disruption or any kind of confusion, you know you have the authority to call 911 and have them removed. You can ask them to be removed, and if they don't want to go, call 911 and then let us know what you've done. And then we'll inform the board member as well. Election is a free and fair process. Okay, it should be. And everyone who is legally registered to vote in our county and in our state should have that opportunity without being harassed by anyone. But we are not putting you there as the policeman. You shouldn't have to subject yourself to any kind of physical or verbal abuse. you know what you do? You just pick up the cell phone and call 911. Okay? Because we are providing a service to our voters in this county. We don't have to be subjected to that kind of rhetoric. Right? I know. Keep on going, right? You want to break or you want to stop? I can't hear. You're going to have to unmute to tell me.
No break.
Keep going.
How much time do we
Keep
have
going,
left?
keep going,
Keep
keep going.
going.
Keep going, keep
Keep
going.
going. I have to be on
I
something
got the
else at
message. I
4.
got the message. I got the message. I'm going to keep going. It's almost over. Because we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on the manual processing because we're going to talk about this mostly in our hands-on class. And this is really just talking about how to deal with the EPB if something should happen to the EPB, how you revert to the paper poll list and how you go in there and do all the circling and bubbling and the initialing and all the things that we used to do a long time ago before we had all this technology. But those things are still available. And, we just always have to be prepared for the worst. So we will hope that everything continue to work with no issues. But if it doesn't, we should be prepared for that as well. Okay. Let's process some provisional voters. And we're going to try and go through this as quickly as possible. But I do want you to know that provisional voting is not going to go away. These are folks, and the reason why they call it a provisional ballot is because it's a paper ballot. It's a physical paper ballot. It's nothing electronic about it, all right? And we give these provisional ballots to voters who is not meeting all the qualification to vote on the voting machine. So you can challenge them as a voter, as a poll manager, and another voter can challenge them as a voter. But all challengers must be a registered voter in Beaufort County. So if somebody come to you from Edison, whatever that company is that like to monitor the what goes on at precincts on election day, if they're not a resident of Beaufort County, they don't have a say-so in anything that we do. But another registered voter do have that ability to challenge another voter. And so what we will do is instead of allowing that voter to vote on the voting machine, because once they cast a ballot on the voting machine, we cannot get it back. So they do a paper ballot. And all provisional ballots are reviewed by the board, and the board will decide whether or not to count that ballot based on the investigation that takes place between election day and the time the actual board meeting or the canvass hearing, which for this particular election will be on that Thursday. All right. So if you want to understand a little bit more about it, you can also review it in the poll manager's handbook. But here is what you will do. You can process those provisional ballots voter on the EPB. So what you would do, let me go to this right here. Okay, this is the provisional ballot envelope. Anytime a voter is issued a provisional ballot, that ballot needs to go inside the provisional ballot envelope, okay? And know that the top part of this envelope needs to be completed by you, not the voter, you. Again, this document is a very important document, and it's always subjected to an audit. So we now have to pay a whole lot more attention to filling out these forms. And we did a little bit better the last election, but of course that was not a very, very busy election, the one in 2021. Boy, in 2020, we messed this process up really, really bad. But you did a whole lot better in 2021. So I'm thinking for this election, you're going to do even better. So we want to bring that B- grade up to an A. So as a team, we need to make sure that these forms are completed completely. So the first section, the first two sections of the envelope need to be completed by you, the poll manager. Whoever is challenging this voter need to fill out this information. All right. For those of you who are have an issue with an address, those voters who may have moved and did not notify us that they have moved, they can fill out this provisional ballot as well, and they will be filling out Section A. Section A, I say they, but you will be filling out Section A. And what this means for fail-safe voting, fail-safe are those voters who move and didn't tell us that they moved. And if they move within the same precinct, they don't need to do this. If they move within the same precinct, they can vote on the voting machine, but they need to fill out a change of address form and send that back to the office so that we can change their address. Because a voter changing their address in the same precinct can vote on the voting machine. A voter that moves outside of that precinct cannot vote on the voting machine. They got to do a paper ballot. So these are the people that we are talking to. A paper ballot for fail-safe does not have all of the offices on it. Only those offices that are countywide or statewide. So county council is a district race that will not be on it. The House, State House of Representatives will not be on a fail-safe ballot. And these are paper ballots, all right? However, a voter can still do a fail-safe in the office. If they come to either one of the three offices, a fail-safe ballot will be issued to them on the voting machine. They can change their address at the office and vote on the voting machine, but they can only do that on election day. All right, they can't do that during the early voting process. They can do that on election day. All right, so what does that mean? A voter have an option. They can fill out a stripped down ballot, which will only give them the governor and everybody else that's running in a particular office that's statewide, or they can fill out one that covers all the countywide office. But the local district offices, because they are districts, they will not appear on a fail-safe ballot. If they come to the office, though, they will get a full ballot. And so voters need to know what their options are, okay? And that's what I just said. Right. Section B is done for those voters who qualification is in question because maybe they were issued an absentee ballot and they're going to tell you that they never received their absentee ballot. Well, in the new laws, people who were issued an absentee ballot automatically gets a provisional ballot. In the past, remember during the 2020 election, you were sending them to the office. They would pick up a letter from the office and go back to the polls to vote. They don't have to come back to the office anymore. They will automatically be issued a provisional ballot if ABS is next to their name in the e-poll book. Okay? So there are several other reasons that a voter will be issued a provisional ballot. They are not registered in this precinct or in this county, or they didn't register in time, they didn't meet the deadline, but they insist on voting, then they will get a provisional ballot and they will be filled in under Section B of the envelope. All right. Okay, now let's go to the back side of the envelope. This is going to be a change from how we've done it in the past as well. Those people who have a voter ID but did not bring it to the precinct with them that day, they will be allowed to vote a paper ballot. And the reason for that is because they did not satisfy all of the requirements to vote on the voting machine. To vote on the voting machine, remember, you have to have a photo ID and you have to verify your address. Okay, they can probably verify their address, but they can't verify their ID because you didn't see it. All right. In the past, we would say, go home. And this is where the greeter comes in at. The greeter can stop that voter before they even get to this point. All right. Did you bring your ID today? If they didn't bring their ID, it might just be out in the car. If it's out in the car, they can go back and get it. But once they get to the certification table and they don't want to turn around and go back home, or they don't have time, they can still vote, but they will vote under Section C with the promise that they will bring their voter ID to the board before the campus, and they can come to either one of the offices, show that photo ID to the office staff. The office staff will have to look at that person just like you would at the precinct on election day and verify that that person is who they are. And then they will notify the board that this person came back, showed their ID, and they verified this person being a legitimate voter in our county. And then the board will get that information and it will consider this voter's ballot, whether or not they should count it or not. Okay, the difference is, it's no coming back to the precinct to bring your ID. All IDs must be turned in to either one of the county offices before the campus hearing. And we will be open on that Thursday after the election. All right, so let's go to Section D. This provision is called reasonable impediment affidavit. Folks who voting using this provision are folks who do not have an ID for whatever reason. All right. The provisional impediment affidavit has always been a part of the voting process ever since we adopted the photo ID laws in South Carolina. And a voter must sign this affidavit stating the reason why they do not have, do not have a photo ID. If I were you, I would encourage that voter to go to the Beaufort, Bluffton, or Hilton Head office, wherever that voter may be, while they are there that day, and get a photo ID. We can give them a photo ID. So in the next election, they don't have to go through the reasonable impediment, because we can issue a photo ID, and or they can go to DMV and get a photo ID as well. All right. And it's free at both places. All right. If there is not a reason already outlined for them why they don't have a photo ID, they have to write one. They must check the box to say other and write what their excuse is, and then they must sign it. This is an affidavit. This is a legal document. You are verifying, your signature will go here, and you are verifying that this voter signed this affidavit, not whatever the reasonings are. You are certifying that just that voter's signature, that they signed this affidavit. Okay. Now, the catch to this, though, not only do they come up with a reason, they must present their paper voter registration card as well. If they come up with a reason but don't have that paper voter registration card, then they will need to vote under Section B, not Section D, under Section B. Okay? Okay. If a voter comes to you and you can't find them in the EPB, you can expand the search and find out exactly where that voter is registered, and you can direct that voter to his polling location. All right. And you can even send them a text, and that text will have the directional GPS, or what you call it, that map that they can use to find out where the location is. So that's a pretty neat feature. Or you can just tell the voter where they need to go. If they're from Beaufort County, 9 times out of 10, they already know, because they were registered in that precinct. They just need to go back to that precinct. All right. We are not at this point having you to add a voter in the system, but a day will come that you will have that capability of adding a voter to the system. all of those folks who were issued a provisional ballot need to get a provisional ballot hearing notice. All right. And all this does is tell them the place, the date, the place, and the time of the provisional ballot hearing. The voter doesn't have to come to the hearing, but they should be given an opportunity to come. It's important that you complete this envelope. The more information you put on this, the less question the board will have. But the voters should have this, should be given this notice so that in case they want to come and plead their case to the board as to why they feel their provisional ballot should count, then that's their right. So every voter, fail-safe voter, along with the provisional the provisional ballots, those ones that we are questioning their qualification. Say, for example, somebody may be a convicted felon and they're being challenged because they were a convicted felon, but they have already served their time. They can come and plead their case. They may have more information than we have. So that's some of the reason why every voter should be issued a provisional ballot hearing notice. One will be in your supply box already typed out, and then you would need to write out the others. Okay? Curbside voting did not go away. All right, we will still need to provide curbside service to our voters that are disabled, over the age of 65, or unable to stand in line for any long period of time to be processed. We can take the BMD outside for curbside, or we can just, we can roll it out on the cart, or we can take it in our hands, whatever works best for you and all the the voter. So know that curbside voting did not go away. You can ask the voter if they have a disability, or if they're over the age of 65, or if they're unable to enter the polling place and are unable to stand in line for any long period of time. If they answer yes to any of these questions, they are qualified for curbside service. Know that there are a lot of 65-year-olds who are able to come inside. But the way the law is written, it's okay if they don't come inside because they're covered under this provision. All right. It is what it is. All right. So know that when we do curbside voting, 2 managers must go outside to do curbside. One is to, again, observe. The other one is to assist. When a curbside voter comes to your location, remember you must check the curbside parking every 15 minutes. And if someone comes in, know that curbside voters do not get preferential treatment. They are to be serviced at the time that they arrive. All right, so because they are curbside doesn't entitle them to jump or skip ahead of the line. You will complete the information for them on the e-poll book by signing the line that they're gonna, because this curbside voting list, signing list is a separate list. It's a paper list that you will need to take out to the voter. You can't take the EPB out there. So you will take a paper voter registration list that they will sign, and you will sign on the curbside in the EPB, C for curbside, and the line that they are to sign on. It could be line 3, it could be line 1, it could be line 12, whatever number curbside voter they are that day, that's the line that they need to sign on. And you will sign in the e-poll book C3 to represent that voter. All right. And I think you guys have done that for the last couple of elections, and you did it pretty well. So, but if you have any questions about that, please don't hesitate to ask, okay? So they get to you get to give them what we call a privacy sleeve, and that's a little cardboard that when they get through voting, they will insert their ballot into this insert secrecy envelope. you and that other poll manager, once they get through doing that, will come back and take that ballot and scan that ballot into the scanner. Try to avoid seeing how that person voted. If that person don't trust you to do it, of course, they can always come inside and do it themselves. Or if someone is there that brought them to the precinct, that person can come inside and they can watch you do it. All right. But make sure that that voter knows that this will protect their ballot, and we will not look at the ballot when we are inserting it into the ballot marking device. We will just slide it out of the envelope into the ballot marking device, face down, so we won't see it. And the curbside voter also get an I voted sticker. I've already said that 2 managers should conduct curbside voting. Remind all of your voters that assistance is available if they need it. Again, you cannot offer assistance, but you need to let them know that it's available. And anyone can provide assistance as long as it's not that person, employer or an agent of their employer or a voter union representative, okay? So they can choose any one of you or their spouse or grandchild, as long as somebody is there watching the process and observing the process, assisting with the process and observing it. Only one person is allowed to vote in the voting booth at a time unless the other is providing assistance. Husband and wife, only one at a time unless one is providing assistance to the other. Somebody mentioned poll watchers. 9 times out of 10, you're going to have some poll watchers. I don't know how many, but when they come to you, remember they must be a registered voter, and they must have a letter saying that they are representing a candidate or the party. All right. They'll wear a badge no bigger than 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. And the badge will have the name of the candidate that they're representing or the party that they're representing. So in other words, if you are assigned to Hilton Head 1B, the poll watchers letter will need to state that person's name and that they are watching for whomever at your precinct. It can't be a generic letter. It has to be specific to your precinct. Okay? This is a change in the new rules, in the new laws. Campaign material cannot be displayed within 500 feet of the entrance of the polling place. Remember, it was 200 feet before. Now it's 5. Right? Candidates verbally can still campaign outside the polling place, and they can wear a badge no larger than 4 1/4 by 4 1/4, containing their name and the office that they're running for. And they can keep that badge on as long as they remove it when they come inside the polling place, if they come inside. All right. They can review the voting list, but we know how difficult that can be. So what we have offered in the past, and we will do it again in the future if we need to, is a list of those people who have voted in the primary up to a certain time in the day to the different parties. Candidates may not display or distribute campaign materials within 500 feet of the polling place entrance, okay? They cannot wear a candidate badge inside the polling place, and they cannot campaign inside the polling place, and they definitely cannot intimidate voters as they come in or out of the polling place. Closing the polls, 7 o'clock. Do not try to close the poll early. We know if you do, so please don't. All right, 7 o'clock is when the poll officially closes. So even if you don't have any voters since 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock during the day, don't try to get ahead of the game by shutting down the machines early. Every piece of equipment records everything that you do. And so please be mindful of the fact. If you're not closing down the machine now, you can also, though, to help with the process, you can probably take down some of the signs and things like that, but definitely do not close those machines. Use your your closing checklist when shutting down your machines. All right. Those machines need to be shut down a certain way. We will have instructions for you on what you need to do. And so please be diligent in reading these lists, because then they'll be updated with new procedures. So don't try to remember how you did it the last time. Read it for yourself. And I was supposed to take out one of these lists. Follow the procedure carefully. When you get through closing down your machine, there's another checklist. Use that checklist to make sure you have done all the things that you have done. And remember to call office before you leave your polling location. Clerks, we talked about this earlier, and like I said, we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, but this is a document that will be subjected in the future, if in some cases subjected to audit, and we have to make sure that you are completing these forms correctly. When you come to your drop-off site to bring your supplies back, the drop-off clerks or the receiving clerks will be examining these documents to make sure that they are filled out correctly and completely. And if it's not, they're going to send you over to a little corner to complete it. So it would behoove you, as you know, while you have help at your location, is to get this right. Before you even leave. All right. If you have questions, call the office, and we will help you with the process as much as we can on how to complete it and how to reconcile. Right. But we're going to talk about this in detail at the hands-on training. Again, we are under a lot of scrutiny, and the things that we could get away with by, haphazardly doing forms and stuff, we got to put that aside. We're going to make sure all of our forms and all of our documents are filled out completely and correctly. All right. There's going to be a what goes where checklist. Use that what goes where checklist to determine what goes where. Okay. I know you're going to be pulling things out of supply boxes and pulling things from here and pulling things from there. And then you're going to wonder, where does it go before you leave? It's going to tell you where to put everything that needs to come to us or that needs to go back into the supply boxes. Also, be mindful. We are in these polling locations. They don't belong to us. We have to keep those areas as clean as you met them when you first get there. And sometimes you may have to make it a little bit cleaner. But do not leave lunch wrappers or burger wrappers or chicken boxes or whatever you have. Make sure you clean your area before you leave, because we want to be able to go back to that facility owner to use that facility at another time. We got a couple of complaints that at the 2021 election that some of the locations were left with trash all over, not put in the garbage can or whatever the case may be. We ask that you please police your areas. Make sure you leave it better than you met it. Okay? All right. Because we need to use it again. They don't belong to us. We need to use it again. At the end of the evening, don't forget to call the 6900 number. There will be people waiting to take your calls. And again, we will go through a checklist to make sure that you have what you need, and that's before you leave your polling place. Don't call us while you're on the road to drop off your supply. Call us before so that we can make sure you have all that we need. All right? Guess what? That's it, folks. Any questions? I know you guys have.
I got one.
Any more? Any questions?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead.
Okay, I got a training. Do I have to go to an on hands poll manager training?
This is the poll manager's training. Are you a clerk?
No, I'm a poll manager,
Okay.
but I don't have an on hands training, do I? At the office?
You can if you want to. We have sessions set up for poll managers and we have sessions set up for clerks. If you receive an email from Wendell with all of that information on it, you can sign.
I signed up already.
Okay, then we'll expect to see you at one of the hands-on session.
Oh, okay.
So
But
it's
it's
a
not
good.
it's not mandatory.
Well, look,
It's not mandatory.
tell them
Okay.
there are people who are managers sign up for the clerk class and people who are clerks sign up for the manager class. Tell them they can only sign up for the class that applies to them. I'm
Okay,
cleaning that up right now.
okay. Wendell said that there are folks who are managers that are signing up for the clerk class, and there are clerks who are signing up for the manager's class. There will be different information disseminated in those classes. So if you are a clerk, you should have signed up for the clerk's hands-on class. If you are volunteering to take the manager's class, then you should be signing up for the manager's class. So he's working on getting that cleared up right
No,
now.
I did it.
You already
They
did?
might have signed up, I took them out.
So check to see what session you were in, because I don't know what he did. How to find
I
that.
already got the times.
You know what, I'm gonna send
Okay,
you.
so just to confirm, in the system it says required classes, and it says 2022 poll manager only hands-on training. It's under required classes. Is that required or
No.
is it voluntary?
The one that say, what does it say, clerks only?
If I'm a poll manager under
System
required classes,
calls it required classes,
Oh,
but that's the only place we can put it to allow them to get access.
okay.
So
He's,
just explain that to them like that.
can y'all hear Wendell?
Not really.
All right, Wendell, speak.
Okay, when we are signing you up for classes or when we set up the classes that you can come into, the only place that we can put a class for you to have access is under the required classes tab. That doesn't mean that it's required. The only one that is required is the mandatory briefing.